And now it's time for Plank of the Day.
Hello, it's Plank of the Day time.
As we speak, there is a Royal Navy ship powering its way, steaming its way to Cyprus, right? It's called HMS Dragon, and it is some kind of attack vehicle that floats in the water. Keir Starmer decided in his wisdom it was a great idea to send it to Cyprus about a week after the base in Cyprus was attacked. I don't know why he decided to wait so long. Nobody knows why he decided to wait so long. And the planks this week are indeed the Ministry of Defence, right? Now, not because of the ship that's going to Cyprus to protect RAF Akrotiri, which was hit by an Iranian drone at the weekend. Not because of that, even though that would appear to be a pretty stupid thing to do, because they should have advised Starmer to send the ship, before the actual base was attacked. Do you know what I mean? The whole point of having military hardware is to protect yourself from attack before you get attacked. But Starmer's such an idiot that he thought, I know what I'll do. I'll wait until they attack us, and then I can defend myself. Unfortunately for him, that means that we will be sending a ship to protect a place, but it won't be there for about 4 days. And it will be, by the time it gets there, about a week after it was first attacked by the Iranians. But the Ministry of Defence are not planks because of that, even though they are. They're actually planks because of something that's gone on a bit closer to home, and that's in Salisbury Plain. Now, I know a thing or two about Salisbury Plain because I used to live very close by Salisbury Plain. So much so that if I stood outside my house smoking, as I used to do in those days, you could see all sorts of lights flashing and what looked like explosions going off, but they were silent because it's all a bit weird down there because as much as Salisbury Plain is a kind of an open battlefield, if you like, it's there for the army to practice having battles on. So they've got an actual complete village which has been put together in a place called Cope Hill Down. It's been there for about 30 years, right? And they use it for training soldiers, running in and out of buildings, shooting each other, blowing things up, chucking hand grenades, dropping mortars, all that sort of thing, flying helicopters around. But because the people locally complain, they have to do it all in silence. But the reason that Cope Hill Down and Salisbury Plain and the Ministry of Defence are becoming planks today is because of a new development which happened over the course of the last few days. And it turns out that they've had to take some notice of the environment. Because despite the fact that they spend their lives practicing how to kill people, they've got to be preservationist when it comes to animals, specifically when it comes to bats. Because apparently there's a lot of bats who live on the Salisbury Plain, and they need to be protected. Now, if it was down to me, and I've got nothing against bats, I would say, well, to be honest, if the bats don't like where they are, surely they should just move, shouldn't they? If you don't like living in a place where there's fake battles going on all the time, then you'd go away somewhere else, wouldn't you? If you live next door to a place where they're constantly blowing it up, you'd go, nah, I think I'll move to somewhere where they're not blowing it up, right? So apparently, they've now had to install what's being called a bat disco, right? A lighting system, which has been put in order to kind of allow the bats to escape from where they are if they get disturbed by soldiers. Special lighting has been installed at the Salisbury Plain training area in Wiltshire, according to the Ministry of Defence, and it's designed, right, to ensure that bats can escape safely if they are disturbed by soldiers conducting nighttime exercises. I mean, this is why the British Armed Forces are not exactly in the finest nick that they should be in. I mean, everybody says we've got the greatest armed forces in the world, and I've got no doubt about that. People that I've met who have been in the armed forces are brilliant men and women. People that I've met who are currently in them are brilliant men and women. But clearly the people running the armed forces are complete and utter planks, right? Cope Hill Down, the mock village on the plain that is used for urban warfare training, was upgraded recently, and it was upgraded in order to put bat conservation measures in, okay? And this is just the latest in bat conservation. You might remember there was a bat tunnel built over the tracks of the HS2 railway somewhere in the Midlands, and £350,000 was spent basically building bat bridges over the A11 in East Anglia. Bat bridges, they fly for heaven's sake. What do you need a bridge for, right? The bat tunnel, which is in HS2 land, cost 100 million quid, right? Because they might be disturbed by the train. This is insane, right? Listen, like I said, I like bats as much as the next man, but as people have said, they do produce some pretty horrible, nasty, noxious fumes. If you've ever been into a bat house in one of the zoos, like London Zoo, my goodness me. Or if you've ever been into the caves, when you see these nature films, you go into the caves where all the bats live, and if you step on the nasty stuff that's on the ground, which is basically emanated from their backsides, it's disgusting. And it's really acidic, and it's actually can knock you out. Anyway, so military chiefs are calling for the urgent rebuilding of the armed forces, right? They want more money spent. We heard from Keir Starmer, didn't we, this week, that they're going to up the spending on national security, if you like, to 3% of GDP. Well, does that include bats? I don't know. Apparently bats are naturally averse to light, which is why they fly around in the dark. So if there's an artificial light outside their roost at night, they might abandon it or stay inside and miss the chance to feed. So therefore, ecology groups such as the Bat Conservation Trust, right, have decided that what they should do is encourage developers to restrict the light cones of lighting with shades where possible to create dark corridors for bats to pass through. So presumably what they've got is more bat tunnels in Salisbury Plain. People have fired weapons, thrown explosives, and made noise and thunder flashes the whole time, and the bats are still there. What does that tell you? Says Francis Tousa, who's a defence analyst. He says it's complete overkill. Kirkbill Down has been there for more than 30 years and we've never had a problem before. So basically they've spent a bucket load of money on protecting a load of bats that don't need protecting. Brilliant. The armed forces, in my experience, says Jonathan Spencer, who's an ecologist, already go to great lengths to accommodate the environment, but they ought to have the final say over these things. Of course, you have some people saying, what about the bats? But at the end of the day, you've got to be able to train your soldiers. I mean, has the world gone completely mad? Stark staring bonkers, batty even. What's happening to Britain? Why are we making sure that bats can have sort of disco lights and tunnels when we haven't got enough soldiers to fight the Iranians? There's something very wrong, isn't there? Anyway, if you know Salisbury Plain, you'll know what I'm talking about. MoD's gradually expanded in 2015, added a shoot house for close quarters training, along with new alleyways, tunnels, compounds, high-level walkways on the site. More recently, work began last year to install state-of-the-art lighting and sound effects to make it more realistic and to stimulate real-life scenarios. It does worry you, doesn't it? Apparently, there's a lot of biodiversity on the site as well. They've found rare butterflies, bumblebees, birds, stone curlews, barn owls, hen. There's no sign of any herons, I don't think. But anyway, it's mad. It's completely wrong. It's batty, and I think it should stop. And I don't want my armed forces and people who are fighting for this country to have to be kind of hoodwinked by a load of flying rats, or whatever you want to call them, bats. So that's why the Ministry of Defence today is Plank of the Day.
Hello, it's Plank of the Day time.